Welcome to the Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today. Now we have some big gaming news for this week. We of course have some newly found footage of some unreleased N64 as well as Wii games. We also have our opportunity to possibly buy the rarest NES game of all time. It was also announced what new SNES games are coming to the Switch Online service this upcoming week, as well as we're going to talk about a revival of an 80s cartoon, and of course some Pokemon news at the close as well. But let's start things off with the newly found footage of an unreleased N64 game. Now the games I'm talking about is going to be Earthbound 64 or Mother Part 3. Now while the Earthbound or the Mother series is popular in its own right, some people simply know the series is just simply where NES came from, because Super Smash Bros. And his fame within Super Smash Bros. Has sort of eclipsed his fame from his old RPG days. But these games were really a huge deal back on the NES, SNES, and possibly could have been on the N64 as well. But anyway, Earthbound was huge on the SNES, so naturally they wanted to bring the game over to the N64 for its sequel. However, the developers of the game didn't really know how to transition over from the 2D style of the SNES game over to the 3D style for the N64 game when the 3D graphics came into play. And so, after months of trying, the game eventually got canceled. I think the game, judging from different sources that I've read, was possibly somewhere between 30 and 60% complete, so still pretty far out from completion on that. But the game was canceled so early on that there was almost no footage of the game at all out there. Over the years, a few clips have come around from different trailers of the game or some found footage. Nothing very long at all when it comes to that. However, this past week, someone uploaded 25 seconds of never-before-seen footage of Earthbound 64. Now, that found footage came from an auction. The auction was for a Nintendo CD-ROM from their corporate offices that claimed that it had unreleased Earthbound 64 footage. The auction went for $387 to a gamer known as Zen, who uploaded the footage that you are seeing on the screen now. It was only 25 seconds long, but hey, it's 25 seconds that we would have otherwise never seen from this game. Now there are other videos out there from the Space World events and such, but all 25 seconds that you are seeing here is never before seen footage. Now will Earthbound 64 ever actually get a release of its partially completed game? It's unlikely. If it was never completely finished, they're probably not going to go back and try to work through the development problems to finish the game. So we will probably never see Earthbound 64 get a proper release. In Japan, they did get Mother Part 3, which is the same storyline as Earthbound 64, but it's going to be on the Game Boy Advance with much cut down graphics and really a totally different game look-wise than what would have been Earthbound 64 on the N64. Speaking of newly found footage of unreleased games, we also had some leaks come out this week about a Legend of Zelda game that was planned out for the Wii that was canceled very early on in development. And what was different about this Zelda game is Link was not going to be the hero. Sheik from the Ocarina of Time was going to be the hero in this game. It was actually going to pick up at the very close of Ocarina of Time, following the dark ending of the timeline on that, where Ganon actually won, and you're going to be playing through the landscape as Sheik, trying to basically keep Ganon sealed in there or prevent the sages from bringing Ganon back to life. So they've only got pictures or concept art of this game, is what you're seeing on the screen right here, and so the game was never really full into complete development stage or even the early development stages. It was really just simply a concept, but Nintendo scrapped the idea fairly early on, and so we'll probably be left with just simply the concept of what this game could have been. Now, I personally think this game would have been a pretty awesome entry into the Legend of Zelda series. Sometimes Zelda needs a little bit of a shake-up when it comes to going into the darker side of things, like with Twilight Princess and such as that. But we'll probably never see this game ever be released. But Retro Studios was behind the game, people who did Metroid Prime and such as that. And it's a shame because it seemed like it'd been a really cool entry into the Zelda franchise. Also coming up this week is going to be your opportunity to purchase one of the rarest NES games of all time, the Nintendo World Championship cartridge. Now there are almost no cartridges of this in circulation, and when they do come up for auction, they usually sell for around $200,000. Well beyond the price any of us can pay for. Or so we thought, because this week a company known as Ogles has a copy of the game, and what they're going to do instead of just simply auctioning it off, they're going to allow users to purchase one piece of the game. And so everybody's going to own it together as like a stock system or a timeshare system through the app. Now the game company Ogles has valued their game at being $211,300, and they're selling off 21,130 shares of the game at $10 a piece. This means for $10 you can own 0.004% of the rarest NES game out there. Now you don't just simply get to keep to your 0.004% of the game forever. The way the company works is after 5 years, Ogles will then sell the game off. And whatever the final sale price is, you will get 0.004% of the final sale price. So let's say that the game sold off for, I figured it up here, $422,000 within 5 years, which is double what they're estimating the value is at now. If it sells off for that and you get your 0.004%, you're going to make $10 from your investment. But let's take it a step further. Let's say the auction sells off for $2 million. You'll still get your 0.004%, which turns out to be a whopping $84. That means that you take out your original investment, so you're really only making $74 of if it turns out to be that, extravagant of a price when it auctions off. Basically, what I'm trying to get at here is this investment company, I'm not going to say it's a scam, but the chances of you actually making much money off of this are very slim. I would say only invest in a company like Ogles if you want to have bragging rights that you own part of the rarest NES game of all time. Now, the company does have other rare games on there as well as artwork and comics and things like that, but it's all the same system. They allow you to buy a small portion of that game or the comic or whatnot, and then when it finally sells off in auction, you're going to get that same percentage back, and it's always just simply going to be a few dollars at a time. This week, we will also get the new SNES games on the Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, over the last, year or so, Nintendo has released some fairly lackluster games on the SNES Online service. But this week, man, are they swapping things up. This week, we get to have Claymates, Jelly Boy, and Kablooey. Editing Ogles here. It's actually called Bamboozle, not Kablooey. Bamboozle. 3 games that you have probably never heard of. But the games, if you look at the footage here, they seem like okay games. The first 2 games seem pretty interchangeable because both the characters just simply mold into other objects, and it looks like a pretty basic platforming experience. Kablooey looks more like a puzzle game. None of the games look, like I said, bad, but I just simply can't imagine anyone being super excited for these announcements either, unless you just had a strong attachment to it when you were a kid. But these games will all be released later on this week. And also this past week, not necessarily gaming news, but still follows under the retro umbrella that we sometimes cover on this channel, was the release of a new Netflix show called Masters of the Universe Revelation. And my gosh, what a great show for us Master of the Universe fans out there. This show picks up, of course, where the original series left off in the 1980s, and it carries on in an amazing direction from this. The animation is great, the storytelling is great, the action is great, and it's honestly more than I ever expected the show to be. Now, I know some fans have been disappointed by this show a little bit because He-Man himself is not in every single episode, or is not the main character like he was more so back in the original show. However, he's still in every single episode in some form or fashion or to some capacity. So it's not like he's not even in the show. And by doing it this way, they've allowed for more character development of Teela, Evelyn, Orko, Man-at-Arms, and so many of the other side characters within the series. Plus, the show is only 5 episodes in, and He-Man will probably come back as a bigger presence in the next 5. But when he returns, we'll actually have a more developed overall cast this way, instead of just simply one developed main character. So basically, if you loved He-Man growing up and you love the Masters of the Universe lore, you're going to absolutely love this show. And so don't listen to the haters and just simply give the show a chance. And finally, Pokemon Unite came out this past week, which is, of course, a free-to-play game on the Switch and eventually going to be a free-to-play game on mobile as well. And I'll admit, I didn't give it a try. I like the mainline Pokemon games, but some of the side stuff I don't usually get into. And especially when they said it's a mobile game, I'm like, mobile. However, there is a glitch out there if you win the battle with Machamp. When you win, it doesn't always happen. A lot of times, Machamp appears without his underwear on. Pokemon's getting a little not so safe for work here lately. A little questionable stuff going on in that Pokemon Unite game. But I'm sure the glitch will be patched out sooner than later, I'm sure. Because Nintendo's usually pretty on top of patching out their dirty little secrets when it comes to it. But that does it for the news this week, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure and like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, go out there, find a great game to play. Just simply have a great rest of the day.